Welcome and congratulations. I'm Lisa Rosen-Metsch, the Dean of the Columbia School of General Studies. On behalf of the Columbia faculty and the deans and staff of the Columbia School of General Studies, I want to welcome you all to the Class Day ceremony celebrating the accomplishments of the 2019 graduates of Columbia's Postbaccalaureate Premedical Pre-Health program. I would also like to welcome again the distinguished members of the Columbia faculty who have been your mentors and champions over the past years. It is our extraordinary faculty that make the Columbia Postbac Premed program at Columbia the most prestigious and top program in the United States and the world. Welcome as well to our student speaker today, Katherine Jennings. We are especially honored to welcome our keynote speaker, Professor of Neurology at Columbia Physician and Surgeons, Dr. Olajide Williams. I want to take one moment and to ask our class of 2019 to stand up and face those who are here to support you and to thank them for your support. You may be seated. The Columbia Postbaccalaureate Premedical program is the oldest in the country and is designed to challenge students to achieve levels of distinction in the sciences that they never thought possible. At the same time, postbac students demonstrate their passion for healing through their many hours of hands-on volunteer work. You, our graduates today, are scientists, but also humanists, artists, and social scientists, all dedicated to the pursuits of knowledge and the alleviation of suffering. I am convinced that you enter upon your careers and your next stage of training as healthcare professionals fully equipped to grapple with all the challenges that you will face. I want you to know how proud we are of your accomplishments, your hard work, and how proud we are that you are lifelong members of the Columbia family. It is now a privilege and enormous pleasure for me to introduce our keynote speaker today, Dr. Olajide Williams. Dr. Williams is a recognized international leader in stroke education and community-based behavioral intervention research. Dr. Williams obtained his medical degree from the University of Lagos, Nigeria. He completed his neurology residency and neuromuscular fellowship programs at the Neurological Institute of New York, Columbia University Medical Center, and received a master's degree from Columbia University Mailman School of Public Health. He is an associate professor of neurology at Columbia Physicians and Surgeons, Director of Acute Stroke Services at New York Presbyterian Hospital, and currently Chief of Staff, Chief Medical Officer of Neurology at Columbia University. Dr. Williams is the founder of the most awesome program that I know, Hip Hop Public Health. He is highly regarded NIH-funded researcher and expert in community-based health education interventions targeting economically disadvantaged persons and their family members. He is the author of numerous scholarly peer-reviewed publications, including the acclaimed book, Stroke Diaries, a collection of patient encounter stories published by Oxford University Press. Dr. Williams sits on several prominent boards, including the Partnership for a Healthier America, whose honorary chair is First Lady Michelle Obama, and the Founders Affiliate Board of the American Heart Association. Dr. Williams has received numerous national awards for his work, including congressional citations and state proclamations. He has been featured by several major networks, which include NBC, ABC, CNN, Al Jazeera, Fox, NPR, and the New York Times. Dr. Williams was profiled in Fast Company magazine's 100 Most Creative People in Business, The Roots 100 Most Influential, BET's A-List, and the 2015 New York Magazine Best Doctors List. Finally, and on a personal note, I had the distinct honor to meet Dr. Williams when I previously served as chair of Socio-Medical Sciences at the Mailman School of Public Health. Without a doubt, he is one of my most treasured colleagues, and he has been a very important friend and mentor to our post-bac pre-medical programs, most recently working with Ali Lonstein and others. Dr. Williams' research program is truly revolutionary, impactful, and inspirational. He connects with communities that are too often left behind by our public health system, and he understands the power of music and the power of musicians and stars who are willing to share their time as well as their craft to affect change. Dr. Williams, through Hip Hop Public Health, has taken a fresh, innovative, bold approach to fostering positive health behavior, and in doing so, he has empowered youth and families around the globe to make healthier choices. It is my absolute honor and privilege to welcome my dear friend and colleague, Professor Jide Williams.
Distinguished parents, family, and friends, Dean Lisa Rosen-Metsch, distinguished faculty, thank you for allowing me to share this special day with you. To the Postbaccalaureate Premedical class of 2019, congratulations on your graduation from the oldest, largest, and most prestigious postbaccalaureate pre-medical program in the United States. Many of you have already had great careers outside of medicine, in the arts, sciences, sports, and even as entrepreneurs. You are here not out of pressure from a parent or a community or the lure of a financially secure occupation. You are here for the most noble of human reasons, to apply for the benefit of the sick all measures that apply, to remember that there is also an art to medicine, and that warmth, empathy, and understanding outweighs the surgeon's knife and the chemist's drug. You have arrived at the junction between the completion of your academic prerequisites for entrance into medical school or another allied health field and the next chapter of your lives. That you arrived here at a time when the core values of our Hippocratic Oath are under threat from greed, from bigotry, and from social injustice is no coincidence. Indeed, when I look at all of you here today and see the light of today's accomplishment shining in your eyes, I have hope. I have hope because I believe Dr. King when he said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that." I believe him when he said that hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. You see, it is not that people do not care. It is that their numbers are often insufficient to make a difference. Now more than ever, at a time when America is fast becoming a post-truth society, you need to personify the light of love, to embrace your higher self, no matter how hard this might seem. So please allow me to share a story with you about embracing this higher self in pursuit of a difficult dream. It is the story of Ezra, a young senior college student who came to see me with his mother for a second medical opinion. Ezra was diagnosed by another physician with Lou Gehrig's disease and given 6 months to live. Lou Gehrig's disease, otherwise known as ALS or motor neuron disease, is a terminal disease that killed New York Yankee all-star player Henry Louis Gehrig. To me, ALS is the most tragic disease. Worse than any infectious disease, any cancer, any stroke, or any neurodegenerative condition I have treated. And yet there is widespread belief among neurologists that patients with this disease are always gracious and kind. So much so that we question the very diagnosis when a patient is disagreeable. ALS is an incurable disease. It is untreatable, relentlessly debilitating, with progressive paralysis of almost every muscle in the body. Only the eye muscles are spared. Behind this physical decline is a perfectly preserved mind, like a corpse with living eyes. As a stroke neurologist, I am used to seeing despair in the eyes of illness, to that lifeless look in dying patients. But this is not the case with ALS. Paradoxically, patients with ALS look alive, with inextinguishable beauty in their eyes. But what is the source of this gracefulness? Where is the well of this graciousness? How does a man who loses everything find a higher self? Surveys of healthcare providers and caregivers with this disease using multidimensional personality questionnaires have consistently found higher scores in the niceness dimension of patients with ALS compared to patients with other terminal diseases. Indeed, Ezra personified this dimension. 5 months earlier, he developed progressive difficulty swallowing food due to weak and withering muscles of his mouth and throat. Next were his hands, which became so weak that he could no longer hold a pen or type on a keyboard in order to complete his homework assignments. Instead, he depended on his mother to transcribe dictations of his answers and responses. Within weeks, Ezra's legs began to give way. And because his hands no longer functioned to the extent that he could hold a cane, he became wheelchair dependent. I remember seeing him for the first time as his mother pushed his wheelchair through my clinic door. He was wearing a cervical collar with a chin pad to prevent his head from dangling forward due to weakness of his neck muscles. He looked emaciated. Even the fat under his skin had been used up, causing it to hang loose in folds. This made his face look wrinkled and old, even though he was only 21 years old. The image of Ezra triggered memories of my own days as a young doctor in Africa, treating infants with a disease of malnutrition called marasmus, in which a child loses his hair and acquires the shrunken face of a frail old man. I found it hard to understand what Ezra was trying to say to me. His words were slurred and effortful due to weakness of his speech apparatus and difficulty drawing adequate breath in order to produce a clear sound. In fact, it took a full minute before I could understand his gentle plea. He kept looking at me with those patient, kind eyes, repeating himself until I finally understood his question. "Can you keep me alive until my graduation?" he asked. You see, Ezra was the first in his family to go to college. He made a promise to his mother that he would be the first in his family to earn an undergraduate degree. But now this dream was gravely at risk. His graduation was 10 months away, and it was my clinical opinion that Ezra had less than 6 months to live. But I withheld this opinion. I held back because prognostication in medicine is based on probability and not actual fact. I held back because I have learned that there is no worse death for a patient than the death of hope itself. Sometimes as physicians, our duty is not just to keep people alive, it is also to help them die with dignity. Over the next few months, Ezra's disease became even more aggressive. It worsened to the point where the painful spasms in his paralyzed legs were unresponsive to the narcotics I generously prescribed. He no longer had the strength to sit upright in a wheelchair and was reduced to a life on a home hospital bed. It was not long before Ezra became mute, before he required the use of a communication device. A laser pointer was attached to a headband on his forehead, which he slowly directed at letters, phrases, and words by shifting his head from left to right. For several hours a day, his mother helped interpret, painstakingly typing out the responses to his coursework via his laser and letter board. Soon Ezra's breathing began failing, requiring supplemental oxygen through a mask that covered his mouth and nose. Even though I was powerless to prevent this tragic decline, I was inspired by his courage, his determination to graduate in that bedridden state, to unshackle himself from an incapacitating fate and reach beyond his grasp for an improbable dream. The end of Ezra's life was free from the usual phases of death, from denial, anger, bargaining, and from the diminuendo of depression. Rather, it was a symphony of spiritual triumph, freedom from fear in the crescendo of affliction, as the edge of a cliff becomes a beautiful garden, and we realize when all has been said and done, we are no different from leaves blowing in the wind. 2 weeks before Ezra died, he realized his dream. He received an email from his college congratulating him for completing all the credits required for his graduation. I know this because a few months after the funeral, his mother dropped a thank you note and a copy of his diploma in my office. To be honest, I teared up a little when I discovered the contents in that large brown envelope. You see, sometimes being wrong can be one of the most beautiful experiences in life. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, described the gap between pain and suffering, the space between a stimulus and our response. While I do not always agree with some of Frankl's more controversial practices during his subsequent career as a psychiatrist, I do agree when he said that what we do within this gap can dictate our growth and freedom. This is where we gain access to the heartbeat of our suffering and resume control. It is where Ezra broke free, how he was able to hold on to his dream. When I was growing up in Africa, I met good people. For many of them, a dream was eating a full meal or sleeping under a mosquito net. Most African children do not attend school. They just cannot. Adult literacy rates are well below 40%, and the situation is even worse for women. For many Africans, the greatest inheritance is resilience, the kind of resilience residing in the gap between pain and suffering. Perhaps this is why I am grateful. Perhaps this is why I feel so fortunate. Not too long ago, I was the lucky medical student who could afford to buy his own books and eat more than one meal a day, not because of my skill, but because of the zip code in Nigeria into which I was born. I still cast my mind back to those days, to the overpopulated slum on the outskirts of Lagos where my medical school was located. I still see children playing in open sewers. I still smell the heaps of refuse beyond the moldy walls of my humble abode. I still remember mosquitoes swarming through torn nets of dilapidated lecture rooms in 100-degree heat. I still mourn countless men and women and children that I failed to save from diseases of destitution and social rejection. And yet, I am grateful. I am grateful because I found a way to enter the gap, to find the resilience to hold on to my own dreams, to find the Ezra within me. It is in this gap that I finally understood what true success is. That true success is not defined by the size or the scope of the work that we do, but by our ability to hear the cry of a single heart and respond to it. This is the reason for my gratitude. This is the reason I am living an improbable career dream. It is this definition of success that guides my approach to every patient encounter. It is what inspires my scientific research into healthcare disparities. It is what motivated me to begin my hip-hop public health foundation. It is what fuels my love for the disenfranchised heart. My advice to you today is to never relinquish your dreams, no matter how hard this is. To never surrender to fear, no matter how frightening this may seem. You see, fear is a tributary of vision, flooding the mind like a blood-red sea, extolling incantation like a retreat. You must confront your fears on the highlands of self-doubt, and if you lose a battle here and there, and you will, realize this, that you are only growing in the gap, training in the valley, improving the skill with which you will wield your sword the next time around. My dear graduates, the spirit of Ezra lives within each and every one of you. Find this higher self and channel it into everything that you do. For he who pours oil into the lamp fills the whole house with light. This oil is your higher self. It is the key to making a difference. Find this higher self and never let it go. Use it to make a difference. Do what needs to be done to get there. Do it fast, do it slow, do it right, do it in the daylight, do it in the moonlight, do it alone, do it with others, get paid to do it for free, do it for yourselves, do it for the world. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Dr. Williams, for your moving and inspiring words. Good afternoon. I'm Andrew Sunshine, Director of the Postbac program, and the time has come to honor and celebrate the Postbacs who have just completed Columbia's preposterously difficult, allegedly impossible pre-medical curriculum. May this fabled body of knowledge serve as the source of their beneficent superpowers for many years to come. I will soon summon each candidate to this podium to be congratulated by Dean Rosen-Metsch, Dr. Williams, and the faculty, and to receive their alumni pins from Dr. Davis Verde, Postbac 2014, and a 2018 graduate of New Jersey Medical School. Before doing so, let me give a shout out to some of the members of the academic entourage. First, I'd like to mention my colleagues, Deans Mike Allen and Limari Carrasquillo, who guide our postbacs with enthusiasm, wit, sagacity, empathy, fondness, and a capacious grasp of pre-medical education and the subtleties of the application process. Secondly, I want to acknowledge Professors Deborah Mauschewitz, Karen Phillips, Luis Avila, Marianne Price, Joseph Ulichny, and Lisi Hazen, and all other faculty present or not. Thanks to the rigor and excellence of their teachings, our candidates will begin their professional studies better prepared than pre-meds from any other institution. Let's all express our gratitude for their scholarship and for their commitment to our students. Now, while the deans, Dr. Williams, the faculty, and Dr. Verde come forward to form the receiving line, I must ask the assembly to please hold your applause and your cheers until the last postbac has been called to stand forth. We want every name to sound clearly as the candidates cross the podium. So, It is now my privilege, and indeed my thrill, to summon each of the candidates to the podium by name. Riva Letchinger. Sarah Jednick. Sarah Jednick. Katya Lazar, Lucas Dazinski, Madison Fraser, Sonia Levine, Xanthi Galati, Jameson Mitchell, Mariah McGuire, Katherine Jennings, Zahava Michelson, Layla Wade, Asma Toomey, Kaz Sun Koltai, Victoria Zelmira Basket, Shannon Fernandez Ladon, Catherine Warren, Lewis Thompson, Ann Hart, Daniel Brenner, Lacey Bookspan, Maggie Sajak, David Kohler, Kevin Moran, Camille Dana, Samuel Spazer, Jessica Park, Eileen Gozali, Desmond Perry, Ashley Seidensticker, Daniel Park, Amanda Lee, Evangelia Mavro-Georgios, Amira Millet, Jessica Mineroff, Matthew Maganello, Monica Rice, Alexis Leonetti, Ryan Lubarski, Jared Goldenberg, Joseph Palladino, Gloria Pereira, Horacio Romero Castillo, Anna Maybach, Alyssa Gutman Green, Corinne Carroll, Malika DeWeaver, Margaret Pixley, Ivan Dominguez, Rachel Monane, Jeremy Orloff, Erica Mitsui, Rohana Gao, Michael Bagnell, Carolyn Fell, Beth Stella, Catherine Smith, Benjamin Fong, Allison Lonstein, Charlotte Fager, Catherine Nerlino, Sandra Leskinen, Melina Hawker, Cleo Egley. Let's hear it for the Postbac class of 2019. Dear graduates, at Columbia you have been enlarged, enriched, stretched beyond what you thought to be the limits of your capabilities, quizzed, and at times sorely tested. And you've made it. This is a testament to your grit as well as to your aptitude. And yet all of you have depended on family, friends, a spouse, or a significant other to cheer you on, endure your moments of despair, and celebrate your triumphs. Happily, many of them are here with us today. Therefore, we're going to do an encore of getting up and thanking your guardian angels. Please rise and thank your family, friends, and significant others. Could it be that we are all born potential doctors? Well, aren't we all born with a propensity to care for one another, to be curious about the world around us, and to mend what's broken? So perhaps we all are all born to be potential doctors, but we don't all fulfill that potential, or most fulfill it in other callings. What decides who does and who doesn't become a physician? In a socially fractured and not yet just world, accidents of birth unfortunately play a role, but broadly speaking, experience is an important, even decisive determinant. Take, for example, Katherine Jennings, our next speaker. As a child, Katherine read about a teenage girl with leukemia and wanted to become a pediatric oncologist. Medicine and its scientific foundations, it turned out, were not transient interests. In college, she eagerly began to study neuroscience. The subject matter was rigorous, but Katherine was enthralled. Biological science proved to be pertinent to the career Katherine initially pursued in education. It was her area of pedagogical expertise, but it also illuminated the lives and development of her pupils. Ultimately, it was the realization that the growth of her students' minds depended on the health of their bodies that convinced Katherine to become a physician. Through medicine, she will fulfill the commitment she has long demonstrated to the lives of others. Anyone who knows Katherine knows with what great powers of intellect and depth of feeling she will pursue her future work, and how joyfully. Please welcome Katherine Jennings, Postbac class of 2019.
Thank you. I must say it feels a little surreal standing here today, celebrating the completion of this program. Less than 24 hours ago, many of us sat in our final biology exam, hands cramping, hoping we were firing enough action potentials to decipher the difference between dim light and dimmer light. I feel certain that I will continue to have dreams of methods of carbon-carbon bonding for weeks to come. And I don't know about all of you, but there were many days when I could not see the end in sight. But alas, here we are. We have finished this step in our journey. So before we all scatter to different cities and jobs and schools, it feels appropriate to take a few minutes to remember just how far we have come and to offer gratitude to those who have helped us to be here. I can still remember my very first day of orientation, sitting right here on these steps, a little awkwardly, vacillating between the feeling that the admissions committee had made a big mistake and also thinking maybe I was going to crush these classes. They say ignorance is bliss, and in that moment it was so true. You see, I'd been teaching middle school for over a decade before coming here to Columbia. I had managed hordes of hormonal teenagers holding scalpels for dissection. Surely I could handle this. I imagine many of you felt the same. I was impressed from the start by all of you all with your interesting and impressive past. Before coming here, you had earned degrees from all over the world. You had served as journalists and business executives. You had flown planes, which is amazing to me, Lucas. I still don't get that. You had so many unique experiences as professional musicians and opera singers, some even more unique than we can imagine. Ivan, whose career as a musician led him to filming NYU's first face transplant, or Riva, who in my own personal nightmare stepped on tick bombs in the Panamanian jungle, all in the name of scientific research. We entered this program with already impressive academic and work and life experiences. How hard could a little physics possibly be? Fast forward to my first midterm, after which I sat outside Pupin with my head in my hands. Needless to say, it had not gone well. For several days, I wondered if I had made a mistake. Maybe this dream I had of becoming a doctor was really just a dream. Thankfully, my stubbornness, which I like to think is one of my better qualities, was stronger than my fear and insecurity. I went to Postbac 101 the next week and said to Dean Allen a bit indignantly, "Why didn't someone warn me I was going to fail?" And he looked at me with a look on his face I'm sure many of you can imagine well, and he said, "Did you come to my mandatory session at orientation?" I had. It was mandatory. I'm a rule follower. As it turns out, he had warned us all that day of the impending challenges, that there would come a time when we would struggle and flail about. But he also said, and I actually did remember this, that if we were willing to ask for help and to learn from our mistakes, that we could succeed in this rigorous program. He was right. Here we are. Even if I did not feel like his warning applied to me at the time, apparently. The challenges we have overcome go far beyond physics. There was chemistry, and then there was biology. But moreover, many of us had made sacrifices in our financials, in our families. We've navigated loss and illness of people that we loved. We figured out how to balance our studies with clinical work and research and friendships and our own health. This was no small task. I hope that each of you can recognize the huge growth that you have experienced, as I have, in overcoming each and every one of these challenges. Just think about all the things that we've learned over these past years. We've learned just how long one can stare at a refluxing round bottom flask, wondering if the desired reaction is actually taking place. We learned the strange joy and satisfaction one could feel upon successfully retrosynthesizing a complex molecule, if only on paper. Thanks to Professor Moshewitz's problem sets, we've learned that knowing a lot of facts about biology does not mean we know how to use them. The academic growth we've experienced is significant, but I would argue that the most valuable growth and the things that will carry us forward and help us to be successful no matter our next steps are not really about science. I'm not sure I see myself dabbling in organic chemistry as a future hobby, but I know that the analytical skills I've developed will serve me well. And while I still don't grasp the theory of relativity, I certainly gained some grit in trying. And I've experienced the deep truth to what Xanthi so brilliantly declared last summer during a chem lab: science is a team sport. Now, perhaps sport is not the right term, although my former award-winning Science Bowl team would argue otherwise. But I assure you that the times I have felt most successful and had the most fun doing it were when I felt like I was a part of your team. Together, we have seen just how hard we are willing to work to accomplish our goals. We've learned how to ask for and accept help when we're struggling. We've held each other up, and we've pushed each other forward. This mentality of camaraderie and collaboration has certainly played a part in our success in getting here, but it will also be invaluable to us and our future patients and our future colleagues. The reality is that none of us made it through this program alone. There is simply not enough time, nor are there adequate words to thank all of you and all of the people who helped us along the way. So I offer a heartfelt thanks on our behalf to our advisors who have guided us, to all of the dedicated professors and TAs who have shared their passion for science and learning, who've challenged us to dig a little deeper and think a little harder. They have answered each of our endless questions, the ones that showed we clearly had no idea what was going on, and the ones when they knew that the knowledge that we sought was already inside of us. To our families, partners, friends, roommates, who listened to us and encouraged us, and made sure we occasionally had a healthy meal or a little fun. I am so thankful to have had such a steadfast team. My partner, Karina, has truly been my rock throughout this program. She deserves an award for all of the times that she listened to me over dinner that she most often cooked after my long commute home. And I would sit there and I would question myself, and she would be patiently listening, and then she would remind myself that I am far more capable than I thought. I am certain that we are all grateful to each person who reminded us of our potential when we could not see it. And to the mentors, physicians, and patients we've worked with who remind us why we started this in the first place. I would be remiss if I did not take a moment to honor one of the people who first inspired this journey for me. Dean Sunshine mentioned that my very first interest in medicine was after reading a fictional book as a teenager about a young girl with cancer. And then I started teaching. Jackie was in my first class of students as a 7th grader. And nothing in my master's degree prepared me for the moment she told me, assured me, the adult in the room, that she was dying. The tumors in her chest were no longer responding to chemotherapy, and there was nothing else that her team of oncologists could do. That coincidence was not lost on me. And yet, knowing that she had less than a year to live, Jackie wanted to attend school. I mean, who wants to attend middle school? I mean, many of us, hopefully, we've been there, we've done that. Middle schoolers are kind of terrible. But Jackie wanted to go to school. She wanted to be with her friends, and she wanted to learn. She worked harder than many of her peers to master skills that she would never get to use. Dr. Williams' story today rung quite true for me. And that little bit of Ezra that he found, for me, that is Jackie. I taught her everything that I could, and she learned with a fervor that I struggled to comprehend. I wished that I could do more. And although I was not ready at that time to leave my career in education, I knew then that one day I would be here. Excuse me, Jackie gets me a little emotional. I'm thankful to have shared a small piece of Jackie's too short life and to have learned valuable lessons from her about how to move through this world with as much joy and positivity and strength as I can muster. and to always strive to learn, if just for the love of learning. I admit that I could not always remember those lessons in the midst of these last 2 years, but I can say without a doubt that there was always someone to remind me of what a privilege it is to be here today. The strength of this program lies in the amazing people that walk it together. I have been inspired over and over again by each of you. Your past lives impressed me, but not as much as the future goals that I've heard you all share. Some of you are committed to serving your communities in primary care and family medicine, others to join the family dental practice to ensure people always have a good reason to smile brightly as Kaz does. Others wish to serve on a global scale, helping developing communities build their capacity to better serve the people of our world. Each endeavor is as important as the next. Many of you, like me, may not yet know where your niche in healthcare will be, and that's okay too. Thankfully, we have time to figure that out. But no matter where we land, each of us has a chance to be a change agent in this world. To work together with our future professors, colleagues, and patients to make a difference in the lives of individuals and communities, to serve others in whatever way we can, to treat each person with dignity and compassion, to address our own implicit biases, and to actively seek out ways to break down barriers for people who have been marginalized. Because all people deserve equitable access to quality health care. That's why we are here. As challenging as it has been, these past 2 years have given us skills and tools we needed to continue that journey, to join many distinguished professionals also dedicated to service and healing. There is still much work to be done, but I am proud to have come together this far with all of you, and I'm so excited to celebrate with you today. Thank you.
I don't know about you, but all I can say is wow. Really, that was incredible, Katherine, and thank you, Dr. Williams. I think we will all keep Ezra and Jackie with us for the rest of our lives. So both remarks were so deep and meaningful, and I hope you all feel, really captured a little bit of what you're thinking as you go forth to the next steps. Congratulations again to our extraordinary Postbaccalaureate Premedical program class of 2019. A very special thanks to all of you and all of you who have supported these amazing human beings through this very demanding program, the friends, the families, the teachers, and the supporters, and the advisors of our graduates. I hope now that you will all join us in the faculty room directly behind the stage so that we can continue our celebration. Congratulations, and we'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you.